Saguaro has become a go-to budget-friendly company for many barefoot shoe enthusiasts, and although some of their designs seem oddly similar to some of the other offerings from bigger companies, they've garnered the attention and at times the admiration of many prominent reviewers. We finally got our hands on a couple of their offerings, including the newest, most up-to-date hard-use hiker, the Brave 3. The question is, does this budget-friendly barefoot hiking boot have what it takes to stand up to its more expensive counterparts in the industry? No, I don't think it does. Hey folks, I'm glad you're here. My name is Chris, and this is the Sons of Sever YouTube channel where there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear. Today, my brother Eric and I are going to be talking about the Saguaro Brave 3, and as you can tell from the end of my intro portion, we don't love this boot. Now, if we don't love it, which we didn't really love it from the beginning, why then would we agree to work with it and do a review on it? The reason is the price point. This boot comes in at $90 on sale currently on their website, or $110 usually, and that is significantly lower than all of the other barefoot style hiking boots that we have reviewed so far. Now, I want to put something in context, because one of the reasons why we did this review was to show you kind of get what you pay for, but there have been a lot of people in our comment sections saying that barefoot style hiking boots are too expensive, usually from the $140 range all the way up to the $200 range. And while that's true, if you go and look at some offerings from some more mainstream companies like Salomon or Danner is a really good comparison, their boots are in that $140 to $200 plus range. So the barefoot boots that we typically work with, not in the realm of insanity when it comes to price. These are way lower, and again, we think you get what you pay for here. The two other boots that we have worked with that are the closest in price to this are the Xero Ridgeway, which comes in at $140, and the Primal Pursuit Mid Waterproof from Lems, that comes in at $145. You can go and check those reviews out on our channel. I'm now gonna pass things over to Eric to talk about what, if anything, this boot does well.
Alright, so when it comes to my likes of the Saguaro boots, there isn't really much to say here, unfortunately, but I think at least the concept is there. You do get a nice barefoot experience out of this boot because it does have a pretty good toe box. It has a really thin sole and it is very flexible. So its barefoot qualities, I think, are there, and that's probably its strongest suit. It is waterproof, and we tested that out, and the waterproofing did work. But there's a few caveats there as well that are going to come up in our dislikes, and that's really it for me. Alright, let's send it over to Chris so that he can talk about the things that he likes about the boot.
I managed to scrape together 3 things that I like about the Brave 3 that I can talk to you guys about. The first one is the toe box. So if you've watched some of our other videos, I've talked about how my pinky toe generally ends somewhere in the wider area of the taper side of the boot, and then obviously my big toe is more towards here. So I usually have a good amount of space for me in most of the barefoot shoes that we test on here. This is one of them. No issues with the toe box. The next thing I want to talk about is the minimalism of the sole, which will definitely also show up in our dislikes, but one of the reasons why it's a good thing is for ground feel. Obviously, this isn't listed on their website, so I'm making an assumption here. I think that based on feel, the stack height without the insole in this is probably somewhere around 5 to 10 millimeters, somewhere in there. I'd go with a safe 7 just to give you a solid number, but it is very minimal, and you can tell that from the way that it flexes. So this is going to be a great boot for ground feel if that's something that you are really optimizing for. The last thing I'll say that I like about the boot, and this is one where I know Eric and I will differ, is I actually like the way it looks. Eric thinks they look a little bit Uggy, and in some ways I think he's right, but I also think it has a classic rugged hiker look with the 3 padding layers up here, the big poofy tongue, which I don't super love, but I do like the way that this looks. Don't love the way that it looks, but I think it's a decent looking boot. And honestly, that's kind of all I got when it comes to the likes of this thing. Are you looking to take your barefoot shoe experience to another level? Then you're going to need a solid pair of toe socks that lets you take advantage of all that toe box. We love Creeper's Toe Socks, a sock that beat out 6 other toe sock brands in a comparison video we did that you can see through the card up in the corner. Whether it's cold or hot, whether you're hiking, running, or lounging, Creeper's Toe Socks will ensure that your feet stay comfy, dry, and healthy. If you're interested in checking out Creepers, head down to the link in the description and use our discount code to save yourself 15% off at checkout.
So you're into the foot health benefits of barefoot shoes, and now you need to replace your whole closet. Look no further than Lems Shoes. They have shoes great for transitioning into minimalist footwear, as well as options that'll please the purists out there. And each one looks great. From barefoot sneakers and dress shoes to loungers or hiking boots, Lems has you covered with wide toe boxes, flat flexible soles, and some of the best looking designs out there. Find our link to their website down in the description.
Need a barefoot shoe to replace your Vans or Chuck Taylors? Splay Shoes has the widest toe box and the most minimal soles we've found in a casual canvas shoe. With their new leather variations added to the mix, you can dress them up really nicely too. I actually love Splays as a go-to lifting shoe, and they are one of the most wallet-friendly barefoot brands available on the market. If you're interested in checking out Splay Shoes, head down to the link in the description where we also have a discount code that will save you 10%. Also, click the card you can see now up in the corner to navigate over to a playlist for all of our Splay shoe reviews.
Alright, so when it comes to the dislikes of this boot, try to keep in mind that we do think that the idea is solid. It's just the execution that's fallen short here. And the first thing that I noticed when I put it on is if you look inside there, you can see where you've got the padding along the ankle, and then you have that waterproof membrane right there. Right where that membrane starts, there is a hard piece of, I assume, plastic that forms the heel cup. And because there's such a big difference there between that padding and where the heel cup starts, it's really uncomfortable. It hits me right on my ankle. And right off the bat, I knew I wouldn't be able to take these on a very long hike because I'd most likely get a blister right there. So that's one thing that they could definitely change pretty easily, in my opinion. This suede material that they decided to go with on this one too is a little bit interesting. Like, I guess to the touch it feels kind of nice, but it gets really waterlogged, and Chris will talk about that a little bit more in his dislikes. But we dunk these things and then they really took on some weight and they take forever to dry out. So this material just really isn't the best to completely wrap the boot in. I mean, the whole outer is this suede material, so if you got this entire thing wet, you'd be adding quite a bit of weight to your foot while you're out trying to use it. And the last thing that I'll say about it is for $110 or $90 when it's on sale, which I don't know if it ever goes off sale, it's just not enough value for that price. If you save up like $30 to $40 more from its price here, then you can pick up something that actually is quality and actually has been executed well. Obviously, we're looking for good budget options to recommend to people, but unfortunately this one isn't it, and we're going to continue that search. Again, if they come out with the Brave 4 and maybe they update some of these things, they could have a solid boot, especially if they can keep it at that price point. But for the price that it's at, it just doesn't give you enough value. We can't really recommend this thing for you. It just doesn't perform well enough. It's not comfortable enough, and I don't think that it's going to be very durable either. So now I'll send it over to Chris so that he can talk to you about his dislikes.
Getting right into my dislikes, I disdain the traction pattern on this shoe. It is absolutely horrible, and to demonstrate my personal hatred for this stupid pattern, I'm going to tell you a little story. So I am a delivery driver, and I test a lot of the boots at work in snowy and wet conditions. On the tailgate of my truck, I have a bladed grate back there that is very sharp so that it catches whatever shoes I'm wearing when I'm back there so I don't slip and fall off the tail of my truck. I'll roll in some B-roll of that grating just so you can see how aggressive it is, and I have never slipped in the 4 years that I've been working in this truck on that grating. I went and jumped up onto that grating in this boot. My right foot slid very smoothly across it to my right, and my left knee came down hard on that bladed grating and sliced my knee open. I then had to finish my route, about 50 deliveries, bleeding through the knee of my pants. This traction pattern is terrible. And it's even worse that Saguaro is calling it their new ultra grippy traction pattern. That's a big fat no. The one thing I will say is it did better in powdered packed snow than we thought it would. When it came to the more hard packed stuff that the traction pattern on like the Lems Boulder Summit does well with, no chance in this. Moving on from my passionate hate of the traction pattern, let's talk about the waterproofing. While this thing is 100% waterproof, the issue is the gusset on the tongue is pretty low. It's right about here. So any water that gets past this point is getting into your shoe. I don't understand why this is so difficult for some companies. You can take that gusset all the way up to like this second hook right here. Lems does that. They have a very high gusseted tongue that doesn't interfere with your ability to get into the boot at all. So I don't understand why more companies haven't adopted that. The other thing with that is while we do have what seems to be the same kind of waterproof membrane that Lems uses on the inside of their shoes, the material on the outside wicked away water at first, but then it seemed to absorb it. We did the creek test on these about 11 hours ago. So the footage that you're seeing of these being dipped in the water was from a hike just today. And these have been in my house in a warm, dry climate for the last 11 hours, and they are still wet. They're also significantly heavier than they were before we got them wet. So I don't love this material when it comes to the waterproofness. Even though it is waterproof, it deals with that water in like almost the worst way outside of it actually getting into your shoe. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the stack height. When you give up stack height for ground feel, you end up with a boot that is limited in its capabilities when it comes to being a hardcore hiker. And you also usually give up any thermal capabilities. This is an interesting conversation for us because usually with the right pair of socks, we can do pretty well in just about any barefoot boot, even if it's not geared towards winter. The Lems boots are not geared towards winter, and they do great with a pair of good socks in winter conditions. The Jim Green Barefoot African Ranger is very minimal and does great in the winter if you're wearing the right socks. This guy does not. Our toes were absolutely freezing the whole time we were using this shoe. We've said this many times, but our ideal stack height is somewhere between 13, 14 to about 17, 18 millimeters when it comes to a solid hiking barefoot boot. I don't know what the stack height is on this, but it's definitely less than 10 millimeters, and it's just so cold no matter what you do. The last thing I want to say is I cannot not recommend this boot enough to you. Don't buy this. For just $30 more, you can get the Xero Ridgeway, which is just fine. It's going to grip better. It's going to keep your feet relatively okay in the elements, and it's got a little bit more stack height underfoot to protect you. One step up from that, just $5 more, so $35 over this, and you're going to get a really solid boot from Lems in the Primal Pursuit Mid Waterproof. It's got fantastic traction, really good stack height, good flexibility, nice wide toe box, completely waterproof, high gusseted tongue. Go with that. Now, with all my hate out of the way, I'm going to pass things back over to Eric to give our outro of the video.
All right, thanks so much for the view. We really appreciate it. We hope that you found this review helpful, and we hope that you'll come back looking for more budget review options from us. We're continuing to reach out to different brands, and maybe even Saguaro will take some of these suggestions and update their Brave boots, so it is something that we can suggest to people. If you like this content, there's a few different places online that you can get more from us. So we have a Patreon page, and we'd love if you would come and subscribe to us there. The subscription costs just $1 a month, and then you get all of this exclusive content from us that's really up to date and behind the scenes of the gear that we're working with. We also have an Instagram account, and we would love if you would come and follow us there. We post a lot of our unboxing videos to Instagram, so if you want to see the new stuff that we're getting in, then go and check us out there. We have a Strava account that we're really active on, and we'd love if you come and be a part of our community on Strava. That's a really cool app where you can go and you can log all of your workouts, your runs, your hikes. If you go paddling or climbing, whatever it is that's active that you can do, you can log it on Strava. Strava. If you follow us there, we'll follow you back, and we'll continue to build that little community that we've got going on. It's really nice to be able to see what everybody else is doing. Sometimes people detail the gear that they're using, and we always detail the gear that we're using. So if you want to see where we're going and our suggestions on what to use, come follow us on Strava, and we will see you in the mountains.